Well, it seems like summer's coming to an end, doesn't it? One's coming back from their trips and vacations and getting ready for school. And for some of us, it doesn't matter, right? Summer's just another season. So I really liked Pastor Donia's message last week, and even though we didn't have a plan to kind of turn it into a series per se, I just wanted to follow up. I felt the message was really meaningful to me, and I wanted to share just my perspective and a little bit of extra things that she didn't share. Hopefully can just add on to the goodness. So I'll be sharing the value of our spiritual family, part 2. Spiritual family or community is really something near and dear for me. It's really the reason why we moved to Colorado in the first place. We knew that we had a lot of good things going for us in Missouri where we were living before. We had a beautiful nature and 14 acres and grandparents for the kids to kind of grow up with if that's what we chose. There's a lot of really positive things that we were really excited about. But we also knew that as our kids grew older that we couldn't provide everything that we felt our kids would need to have a really wholesome, rich life. Though even those things were really wonderful, but we felt that they weren't enough. And on top of that, something we also really desperately wanted is something to invest our hearts into, something to where we could live for a greater purpose that we felt really inspired by and called to, and that we could show our kids that example of a lifestyle. And I'm sure that we could have found something meaningful to do in southeast rural Missouri. For example, when we were living there, I tried to become a health coach, and I put an ad in the newspaper, got no calls. But, I was like, at that time I was really inspired. That's something I really wanted to do. And maybe I could have done that, and that would have been my kind of higher calling. But as time went on, while we were there, we just felt more and more called, more and more drawn to want to go into pastoring, even though we had no experience, training, or knowledge of how to do that. But it just goes to show, if something you want to do something, you can learn on the way. Don't let it stop you just because you don't have a degree or education. For me, a community, a spiritual family, it's so important. It's so vital to our lives if we want to live a rich life. And I see the church in its best form as a similar to a healthy family. A healthy family where where there's growth happening, and it draws people to want to be a part of it. In its worst form, we've seen a lot of that too, a church is like a dysfunctional family where people are pushed away. They don't want to be anywhere around it, right? It's kind of like if you have a lot of arguing or fighting at home, you don't want to be at home, right? So it's kind of like that with the church. If there's a lot, anyway, I'm going to get into that more in a minute. There's a verse here from, I didn't put where it's from. Timothy. It says, "Do not rebuke an older man harshly, but exhort him as if he were your father. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity." And this verse, and actually this whole part of Timothy, kind of talks about how the church we should treat the church and the people in the church as a family. Like the way we relate to people, they're not just strangers or, that person I never talked to, but it's an opportunity to improve or work on our familial relationships with our siblings, our aunts and uncles, people like that, grandparents. We don't all have those people in our lives. The opportunity to practice and have those relationships, even if we don't have them in our actual families. So it's talking here about how the church should be treated as like people in our family. So, like I said in the in the best case scenario, the church is like a healthy family. And so I would expect to see certain things that we would expect to hopefully see in a healthy family in a healthy church. And so I made a short list. This isn't based off of anything. These are things that I hope maybe we all agree on. I don't know. I think are in a healthy family or in a healthy church. We have a common higher purpose. We have commitment. We have trust. We have honest communication. We have empathy. We have fun. We have forgiveness. This is an extension of God's grace to us. We have shared responsibility. And we have safety. We can be ourselves without fearing judgment or retaliation. And this last one, I think, they're all very important. This last one I feel is extra important. Last week, Pastor Adonia shared that when we were up at family camp, the owner asked us about what we do, to create the sense of community in our church. And I think that this is a big one because a lot of times religious people feel like they need to act like their life is more well put together than it is. And I think especially as leaders, pastors, whatever, people expect those people to be, I wouldn't say the word perfect, but you need to be like a model example, right? Like you need to be close to perfect. And the higher up you go, like, I've been in the church for so many years, I've been doing this thing for many years, I'm a deacon or whatever, titles. That's why we don't like titles so much. The more people feel like, I need to kind of put on a show, or I need to act like things are really good. And it makes it very difficult to have really authentic relationships and to be very vulnerable because we all have problems. We all make mistakes. We all need forgiveness. We all need to give and ask for forgiveness. And if that's not happening, then it's just not a real relationship. And I think that on a fundamental level, people recognize that. People want authenticity. They want realness. And if we are trying to act like, things are great, when things are obviously not always great, then that takes away some of the real potential for relationships. In our families, we can't really fake it to our spouse or our kids. We can't fake that things are going better than they are. People see the real reality. And so, but outside of your family, it's a little bit easier to put on a show. It's a little bit easier to fake things. But I think that it's a lot to ask for all of us to just air out our dirty laundry and just be completely honest. I mean, sometimes that's not really that helpful. But I think that little by little over time, we need to create this sense of yeah, it's okay if you have a problem, if you made a mistake. We can be honest about each other, and that creates real, actual intimacy. And so there are things that we would want to see in a family that are good. Similarly, we see things in families that are not good or not healthy or not encouraging of well-being. And so some of those things would be infighting, gossiping, to be insular, so only focused on ourselves, don't care about other people, superficial, judgmental, retaliatory, and boring. I think that in an ideal situation, we recognize that if our families can be all of those good things, and as less as possible, as little as possible of these things, then That's a good thing. Good families that people want to be a part of. And similarly with a church, if you see these things in a church happening in your church, maybe you won't say anything, but is that going to inspire you? Is that going to make you want to stay long term, or make a commitment, or make a real effort? I would have a hard time if I saw a lot, and there's a lot of things you could add to the list, right? But these are just a few. So I really see that in a church family, it's not really that different than the things we're looking for in our own physical families. Oops. People need belonging. We need purpose. We need a spiritual family. People are isolated. People are lonely. For many people, and this may surprise you, but for many people, having a spiritual family can actually give us something in our life that we don't even get in our own physical families. It's not ideal. And ideally, the way God made it to be, we grow up and we live in amazing, thriving, nurturing families where we feel all kinds of love, and we develop our relationship with our siblings and our parents, and it just enriches us in our life, and we're prepared for the world, and make our own families. But life isn't like that most of the time. And on top of that, many people have even experienced being rejected by their families, or being deeply misunderstood by their own family members because of a life choice that they made, a mistake that they made, a decision that they made. Many of you have had experiences like that because of a religious decision, or many people, I decided to marry somebody of a different race or background, and it created problems. As much as we innately understand that family is everything, like blood is thicker than water, as they say, we also recognize that as much as we love our families aren't always there for us in the way that we need and want at times. And so I think that's God wired us for community. God wired us that we would have not just our families, but also other people in our lives that can fill those needs and fill those voids, that can help us. This is from our true father, Reverend Moon. He said, "To follow the heavenly way, you must sometimes leave your physical family." Jesus asked, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" And stretching out his hand toward his disciples, he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. Those who do the will of God are his true family." Likewise, in restoration, we must build a new spiritual family centered on God's will. So we may feel called, like God is calling me. And other people close in our life may not feel that calling. They may not hear that calling. So we have to find other people who feel that same calling. Because doing it alone is very lonely and I think hard to sustain. But even in the best of families, even if we have great relationships and trust and care and love, God didn't design us to just be on our own. But I can say very confidently that we all have shortcomings. We all have lackings. We want the best for our families. We want the best for our kids. But there's no way that we can fill all the needs that are there. And having friends of faith, having aunts and uncles and siblings and grandparents is so crucial. There was an article that popped up on my There it is. There was an article that popped up on my feed a few months ago. It was kind of interesting. It's called, I can't read it, "The True Cost of the Church-Going Bust." Thank you. It's kind of an interesting article. It was about how, it's written by an agnostic. He's, I guess, indifferent about God. But he says in his article that when he sees the decline of religion, in his mind, he's thinking, good, they deserve it. So, whatever. It kind of gives you an idea of where he stands on certain things. But he came to the realization, and he shared in this article, that there was a cost. There was a cost to the decline of religion. And that cost was that religion was kind of like what do you call it? Like a balancing point, or it was holding back. It was balancing the kind of a strong sense of American individualism, and independence. That we all know we Americans are like that, right? Kind of independent. But it was balancing that out with like a core of community centered around the church. And many towns were built around churches, and that was like the core of the community. And, we can say pretty obviously that is not the case anymore. I mean, just in this 3-block radius, there's like 5 churches, okay? And it's not the center of society like it used to be. And there's good reasons for that. It's not like it just happened all of a sudden. There's real reasons why that happened, and people lost trust in church institutions and things. But there's a real cost to that, in the sense that people lost that balance and lost that sense of community. And the main point that he's making here is that people haven't been able to replace it. I think people assume that, if the church declines, we'll find something better. It was bad anyway. But actually, people have really struggled to find a replacement. And also, a lot of things have changed in society. People are much more mobile than they used to be, willing to move to a different country or a different state for work or school. And so those family ties are also weakened as well. And so that has created a society of very lonely, seeking people. And we're not immune to it either, ourselves. One of the things I really love about our Yami house is that it's kind of like the opposite of what we're seeing in the society, in the sense that they are a bunch of young adults who are living together in a house, kind of crammed together in there. We have like 3 more coming this summer, so it's going to be like 13 people or 14 people in there, because it's very hard to turn people away. They really want to come, right? We have to figure out a plan eventually for expanding, but for now we have what we have. But they are in a situation where normally in your home, you're living with people that you are related to, right? Unless you're like a college student and you're living in a dorm or something like that. Normally you live with people that you're related to. And even then it's hard, isn't it? Hard to get along with people, hard to reconcile differences. You get upset at everybody for the smallest of things. They bother you. You left that toilet seat up. You didn't refill the toilet paper. There's this spill on the floor, didn't get cleaned up. There's so many little things, right, that can bother us in our families. And just imagine if you're living with like 12 or 13 other people that you're not actually related to, and you don't have a long-term commitment to. Like, it can be very easy to just not care. It can be very easy to just judge silently in our heads and be like, well, I don't need to make up with this person. I don't need to have that hard conversation with this person. We'll just get through it. Eventually we'll part our ways. I'll never see him again. It's fine. And I'm not saying that we can resolve every difference, but we need to try, because I'm a big believer in the saying that the way we do anything is the way we do everything. And in my experience, I have found that if I have a relationship with somebody and I just write them off, I don't care, I find that I actually end up doing that in my own family. Not because I intend to, or because I'm a bad person, but it's because we can't necessarily disconnect the two experiences. When we're pushed up against the wall and we have an experience with somebody and I don't want to deal with them, I don't want to forgive them, I don't want to talk with them, someday we will get pushed up against that same wall with somebody that we are committed to, somebody we are in a long-term relationship with. Could be my wife, could be my parents, could be my kids, it could be somebody I'm mentoring or caring for. And we are tempted to go that same route. But if we work on ourselves and we use the opportunities of the relationships that are around us, then it helps round our rough edges. It helps us to deal with those relationships in a better way. And I feel like that, not just with Yami, but we have opportunity for that in the church as well. We have all these wonderful people around. Some people we know well. Some people are complete strangers even after 10 years. And we have opportunity to have these relationships with these amazing people that we're on the same path with, to get to know them as a brother, as a sister. And I find that it helps give us actually deeper insights into ourselves and into the people in our lives by getting to know other people in our lives. So, of course, that works in a healthy situation. But I think that that's our hope in being pastors, and I hope in your hope, I hope is your hope as well, as being a part of this church, to be able to have that experience as well, to have people, not just your own family, but people you can walk hand in hand with, who are going the same path with you. You can share your challenges, you can share your struggles with, and they're not going to disown you just because you make a mistake. There's another quote here from Reverend Moon. He said, "In our church, there are some who seem in the position of the highest glory, and others who must bear the cross of the world in the worst position. Therefore, the church is the place where all kinds of people are gathered, who must help and guide one another." You know what I like about this quote? It's not saying that those who are in the high position should help the people in the low position. It's just saying we must help and guide one another. I like that, because we tend to think in churches that the people who've been there the longest, the people who have the titles because they're the deacon or they're the whatever. But I think in a family, there are times when the kids need to help the parents. I had a wonderful letter that I received from one of my kids after Camp One Heart, and it encouraged me to spend more time with them, and also calling me out on something that I was doing that they felt was not healthy for our family. It was the way I was reacting to one of the other siblings. And that was initially a little bit hard for me to receive this letter. I have to admit, I got a little bit angry. But then after a minute, I was like, it's really true. And I'm grateful that they could be honest with me. And then so I've been trying to make a little more effort in these two areas. And we have to help each other. Parents, we can be helped by our kids. They see things that maybe we don't see. And we need to be open to them to let us know. If we retaliate, they won't say again. They won't say it again. All right. I had a really nice conversation with a friend yesterday. It was like an hour long. And I haven't seen him or talked to him in 15 years or so. But he reached out to me, and it was a very interesting conversation. I'm still digesting like how I feel about it, because on the one hand, I was very grateful to be able to talk with him and share advice and encourage him to come visit our community. at the same time, I just felt for him too. He's a very like faithful member, grew up in the church, has a family, and he just was saying he's desperate. He feels so lonely, and he feels like he has a lot to offer, but he doesn't see a way that's meaningful for him to offer it. He even told me, I still got a fire in me. He said that. I was like, dang. I don't even feel that way sometimes. But he's like, even in his experience of just difficulty, he's like, I still have a fire in me. I want to do something. I was like, that's awesome. Come visit. So, maybe at times in our life we don't feel like we really need community. We don't need a spiritual family. But I tell you, there are times in your life where you will desperately wish you had it. I know there's been for me. Here's from a pastor, a Christian pastor I really like, Rick Warren. He shared this quote or excerpt. There are many analogies for a Christian disconnected from a church. A football player without a team, a soldier without a platoon, a tuba player without an orchestra, a sheep without a flock. But the most understandable and biblical picture is that of a child without a family. 1 Timothy 3:15 refers to the church as the family of God. That family is the church of the living God, the support and foundation of the truth. God does not want his children growing up in isolation from each other, so he created a spiritual family on earth for us. Paul reminded us in Ephesians, you are members of God's very own family, and you belong in God's household with every other Christian. A Christian without a church family is an orphan. And so this is a good time to remind ourselves about our vision statement. Specifically, number 2, we are a church that isn't a church, but a family where the experience of community, love, and God's grace abound. Of course, you can call it whatever you want to call it. I like to use the phrase, you can put lipstick on a pig, or however that phrase goes, but it's still a pig, And we can call our church a family, but we have to actually make it one. What you call it and what words you use doesn't matter. People can see through that. So if we want our church to be a family, if we want our church to be an asset to us, and to take what we're already doing right and do it better, and maybe help us in the areas where we're maybe not going in the right direction, we need to create it. And I feel very confident that we are on the right path, but we need to do it together. It won't be handed to us. It has to be created by each and every one of us. So that's my message. I'll give a prayer. Thank you. Dearest Heavenly Parent, thank you so much for this day. I feel so blessed to be with each and every single person here, Heavenly Parent, and I really hope and pray that you feel drawn to this group of people and all your children who are trying to do this as well, who are trying to create an environment, Heavenly Parent, where you can dwell and where families can prosper and where people can find comfort. And Heavenly Parent, we know that there's been a lot of pain and suffering that has happened in the church and because of the church. And Heavenly Parent, that's the reality. You see it more than any of us do. But I pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can make a change, that we can turn things around, Heavenly Parent, and the things that we have done well in our community, we can do better. And we can share that with people who are looking for it, Heavenly Parent. And I just feel so much gratitude, Heavenly Parent. You've guided us and you've brought us this far. Please continue to guide us. Please let us stay humble and always seeking for your way, Heavenly Parent, as individuals, as pastors, as a community. Please help us to always go your way, Heavenly Parent. We thank you. I offer this prayer on behalf of all of our blessed families here. Amen and adieu. Thank you.